Worked very hard at it, Alan, and they have tied them up, haven't they? I
It's
mean, that's
interesting to
their hope
recall,
for the
though,
day.
in neither game did Hughes and Cantona play.
Yeah, I think that
one played in one played in the
Bobby
other.
Charlton was on earlier, and he said if Manchester United play well, they'll win the game, and I agree with that. I think that Chelsea have got to try and stop them playing, and what they'll do is they'll get men behind the ball, and I think they'll be negative. I think that's a way to play against Manchester United. Don't give them time and space, and don't let the flying wingers get any sort of, impetus to get going, because when they get going, they can destroy teams.
Well, let's have similar comments from you on the Chelsea team in a moment, but first let's meet them, and they're introduced by their captain, Dennis Wise.
He's probably the best goalkeeper we've ever had. He's very flexible. He's like unbelievable. His spring on him and getting across the places. He only cost 400 grand, and I think it was a snip. I think he's the best goalkeeper also in the league. I keep catching Dimitri licking biscuits, put them in his bag, and he keeps. I think it's to send them back to Russia, and he keeps all the time. He keeps like, Dimitri, what are you doing? And I understand. And he puts them in his bag, and I think he sends them over to people in Russia or whatever. Clark has been tremendous this year. He'll be our player of the year, I think. He's done that well. He's good at going forwards. His crossing's improved a lot. He's been a different class this year. When I need someone to go to, Clarky, I always say Clarky, and he helps me out. Frank Sinclair, if you asked him what 1 plus 1 is, he'd probably say 3. But that's Frank for you. His ability, his pace, he will, if he does play against Kanchelskis, close him down and keep him quiet. He done a good job at Manchester. He's a very bubbly person. He always thinks like he's the top dresser. I'm not sure whether he copies Eddie or Eddie copies him. I better not give Erland any stick because he's a bit too large for me and he might wring my neck. People forget about him. They're always looking at Frank when he was playing there and Clarky at the back. But he's been solid as well. And he usually marks the big men, and when he does mark the big men, he does well against them because he's very strong. He done well against Mark Hughes last time as well. He's very quiet, Erland. He don't say a lot. Nobody says much to him because of the size of him. That's probably why. I think I nearly had an argument with him once, and then I thought, oh, what are you doing, Dennis? Steady. You know what I mean? It's Erland. And, but he'll do well. Jakob Kilborn. It's hard to say his name as it happens. But he got his first goal the other day, and he should score a lot more goals, and he knows he should as well. And it was a good goal he scored the other day. The gaffer left him out at one stage, but then he's come back because the gaffer wanted him to be a lot stronger and nastier, and he's come back and he's done what the gaffer's asked him to do. They played Eddie in all positions. They played him at left back, right side midfield, centre forwards. I think they finally found his main position. It's sitting in front of the back four as a holding player. He's good at getting about people. He's very quick and agile. I think he does copy Frank. I hate to say it, Ed, but you do. You wear all the same gear. He wears all the same gear. They shop in the same places. And I think if they had their own way, they'd probably have the same girlfriend, them two. The gaffer nearly sold him at one stage, and that shows how he's come on bundles, Craig. He's broke into the first team. He was going through one stage that everything he hit, they'd go in the top corner. And he thought, go on, shoot, Craig. But he has got a great strike on him with both feet, and I think if he gets a chance and he lets one go, you know, stopping it. Nightmare buy, worst buy of the season. Nah, Gav. Gav has done tremendous. He's got goals for fun this year. He's worked really hard. He goes about things in a professional manner. Everyone should look up to him as well. The young lads should look up to him and say, like, that's the way to do it. He seems to just get on the end of things. You like for the semi-final, he come from nowhere for both goals, and he seems to score at the right time for us, you know. And I hope he does it Saturday. In the mornings you'll hear someone screaming their head off and you think, who's that? and when you come round the corner, you'd see him. You think it's a 6-foot giant, but it ain't. It's we call him the fairground freak because he's so small and tiny. But he's done tremendous this year. He's coming in place of Steenie when he was injured. I think the gaffer tried to play them together at one stage, and they were on fire, both of them, you know. And they suited each other and complemented each other. They might be both small, but they've caused a lot of defences, a lot of problems. And he's got goals when we needed goals, you know, when Steenie's not been there. I think Mark Steen and Spenno were separated at birth. I'm not quite sure. When he first came, he just couldn't score. And then all of a sudden, once he got the one goal, he ain't stopped scoring. As you see on Saturday, poor old Sheffield United. He has got the single-minded thing. He goes out, the ball comes to him, he thinks goal first, and that's the way strikers should be. If he was 6 foot, he'd be unbelievable goal scorer. Just wishes another 4 foot on him or whatever. Dennis-wise, myself, I've had a good season. I've enjoyed it. The fact that I've enjoyed it is because we've got Chelsea Football Club to the FA Cup final. The fact that I'm captain as well, I would like to step up the stairs and pick the cup up.
What are you known for around the club? What do they give you a stick for and everything?
They give me a little... Cass is probably the best man to explain that. He calls me the rat. He says I'm slippery, I'm there, here, everywhere. And he says when I go up for, you know, when you toss the coin up, they must think, they ain't all like him, are they? He says they look at his beady little eyes and think, I wouldn't trust him. But that's Cass, that's what he'd say about me.
It's a perky little chap, isn't he? And of course he sport a double for you, didn't he, once, 88?
Yeah, he played well in 88.
Yeah.
And he'll do a similar job today, I would feel, tracking back and helping out the full-back against the pace of Kanchelskis.
Right. Jimmy, let's have a look at the team and have your thoughts on that.
Well, the Chelsea side, I try to get the clues, you know, from what we've heard today and listened to all the way round, as to what might give them a sneaking chance. I mean, I know that we feel that if United play well, it's been said, and nobody's going to disagree with that. They're going to swamp them. They're going to win the game. But Chelsea have got certain things going for them. I think even emotionally, the fact that Alex Ferguson said it's a day out for Manchester United. Well, if I were the Chelsea manager, I'd say, ain't a day out for us. We haven't won anything yet. You know, so they've got that little tiny edge. On size, just look at the size. It's been mentioned already, but the size of those Chelsea players, Peacock, Wise, Spencer and
They're not going to be
Steen.
pumping high balls to anybody, are they?
They're certainly they're not going to out-jump the Manchester United defenders, but it's not the normal size of team, you know, that they're used to playing against. And if the ground is a little bit slippy and they feed the ball in along the floor, United central defenders are tall, lanky. I mean, that's another way in which Chelsea might give them a running.
Yes.
The only way to beat a team that is star-studded and, you know, spectacular and that much better is to work harder, you know, and do things they don't like.
I think you've mentioned Wise. I think that Wise and Newton, there's a huge responsibility in the wide men, Burley and Wise. It's a fine balance between tracking back and helping their full-backs and getting forward. They've got to work this out early on in the game where they can get up and support and track back and help. And I think that confrontation will be crucial, really will.
Now, Hoddle hasn't picked himself, but he's on the bench. We may see something of him.
Really disappointed.
Are you? Before you comment on that, though, let's hear what Dennis Wise has to say about his player-manager.
In training sometimes, you know, Peter Shreves, turn around and say, right, I want you to flick it with the outside of your foot over your head, flick it with the outside, the other foot over your head, catch it on your foot, flick it up in the air, catch it on your neck, and flick it back up and catch it on your foot. And he'll turn around and say, Gaffer, and the gaffer will flick it up, flick it over the other side, catch it on his foot, catch it on his neck, flick it back up, catch it on his foot, and you give it, don't think so, Pete, like that. But that's the gaffer, you know, he can do things like that. It's unbelievable.
That's the sort of skill you're hoping to see this afternoon,
Well,
something like that.
If I'd been Chelsea manager days, I wouldn't have picked him. But as a neutral, I would love to have seen it. This is his stage.
What you're saying is he's made the right decision.
I think he has made the right decision. I think that they will play negative, and I think that if he'd have played alongside Peacock, then you haven't got enough in there that's going to man-mark and pick up.
Yeah.
But certainly at this stage, it's made for Hoddle. 2 great feet, great pass, a great vision.
I have a sneaking suspicion we'll see him somewhere along the line, especially if they're in some sort of trouble. Let's have a look at the lineup, Jim, and the formation, so to speak.
you see, it's just that question of size there. I mean, I don't think there's any other team in the Premiership, and not that many in the Football League either, who have that size of sort of attacking force there. And so they must play in that particular way. They're central defenders, not English, brought up educationally in a football sense, you know, to think the goalkeeper...
I worked it out, Jim. I think there were 9 English players out of 22. It's a cosmopolitan cup final.
Yeah, I know that's not necessarily a good sign for our football generally, I think, but on the other hand, it can make matches very extremely entertaining.
Just looking at the middle of the field there, Alan, they call that the sort of diamond formation, Newton, Peacock, Burley and Wise. Are they going to I mean, they've got to defend against 2 very fast attacking wingers.
I don't think they'll play that way. I think that Burley and Wise will play wide, and as I've just said, I think they'll track back and help at the full-back. Number 10 is important as well, Peacock. He's got to get the balance right between drifting into the box, where he's great scoring goals, and also tracking back. I think that Chelsea will start off, you'll find they'll get men behind the ball and they'll be very negative.
What about the Manchester United, sorry, Jimmy, what about the United, the heart of the United defence, playing against 2 small guys like that?
If they defend deep, there isn't a problem, because there's not any spacing behind them. If they get, what you've got to do, Wimbledon did it, they left the central defenders on it, and what that does, it drags them up the pitch a bit, leaves a bit of spacing behind. If you play it in behind them, you've got Steen, you've got Spencer, very quick, they can get on the end of it. But if you allow them to defend deep on the edge of the box, then you're committed to throwing the ball in the air, and you rightly say they've got no chance because they're behind them.
Greg Bodie, we're going to say.
No, I was only saying, in the semi-final, he was injured, I think, and then he impressed me very much. I couldn't understand that at one stage this season, apparently, he was being allowed to go. He's not necessarily meant to be the most dangerous of those 5 players up front, but I've just got a sneaking feeling he's going to do something. Very quick-footed.
Let's have your final thoughts then before we go to John Motson.
I've got to go for Manchester United. They've won the Premiership, they've been the best team in England. I think they'll come here today buoyant, and you might just see all the tricks, and I think they might win convincingly.
Jim?
Well, Chelsea are Fulham's neighbours, and we've had an unhappy experience recently. Maybe they could bring a smile to that area of London, but I don't really hope so, but I do wish them that bit of luck, because United have got something. They've already got some silverware.
Well, they're 2 great clubs. We're hoping for a great match. I hope you can sit back and enjoy it. And our commentary team, of course, Trevor Brooking and John Motson.
Thanks very much, Desmond, and good afternoon, everybody. The conversation there we much enjoyed, Trevor and I, and the build-up before it, and we hope we'll have a match for you that will go along with it. I suppose I ought to start by saying welcome. It's a familiar scene here, but it's the first £3 million cup final, or very nearly. The information from Wembley this afternoon is that gate receipts alone this year amount to £2.9 million. That's a record for a football match played in England. And that's just the ticket money, by the way. It doesn't include the programmes these fans have bought, or the cups of coffee or refreshment they've purchased, or indeed the merchandising on the day. And we've talked before about our cup final being the biggest event of its kind in world football. And it's certainly, I think, the most lucrative, and it just goes to show the financial side now of football. It's big business. And there are no bigger standard bearers of the financial flag than Manchester United. Their supporters all grouped at that tunnel end of the stadium, and although they've come to watch the football, Manchester United is more than just a football club now. It's an industry, no less. It's a PLC valued in the city at something like £80 million, and likely to make a profit this year alone of around £10 million. But what they've come to see, they hope, is their club complete the double. And how appropriate that might be in the year when Sir Matt Busby died, because Matt came here in 1957 with the championship won, had his goalkeeper injured and lost the final to Aston Villa, and Manchester United have not been as close to the double since then as they are today. Their opponents, Chelsea, a club which over the years I suppose has had a mixed reputation, but lots of affection for Chelsea. Supporters singing their song, which the blue flag, which they've adopted over the last few weeks. Now, this is what Ken Bates, the chairman, calls the only real London club, because it's just 1 3/4 miles from Stamford Bridge to Harrods. And if you'll pardon the connection, Chelsea as a football club and as a team have always had a little bit of fashion and a little bit of front. Near the King's Road they're situated, and they've always prided themselves on their stylish players. Now the cup final traditional hymn, Abide With Me. Chelsea pensioners joining in the singing, which was led by the Derek Taverner Singers. And Abide With Me, always held in great respect at the cup final, part of the Wembley tradition. And it usually heralds an up-tempo beat in the crowd, because they know now that it's not very long before the teams come out. The dignitaries are assembling in the Royal Box. Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Kent, will be joining them soon after the teams are presented to her, and she will this afternoon present the FA Cup. Those are the front seats where the royal party and the chairman will eventually sit. See that the Archbishop of Canterbury is already here. And there's a man on the right, or he's moved across to the left, Brian Robson, for whom today is something of a sentimental occasion, and a sad one too, because Brian is not in the Manchester United 14. He will not win a medal today, because Alex Ferguson's hardest decision was who to make the second substitute. Sentiment said Robson, but practical thinking on the day said McClare. Alex Ferguson, who won the double in Scotland 10 years ago with Aberdeen, League and Cup there in 1984. Can he do it in England in 1994? Wonderful moment this, Trevor Brooking, with the anticipation building up before the biggest game of the year.
Well, Alex Ferguson looked very keen, didn't he, to get his side out there. Probably these few minutes are the worst for any player, because you've done your exercises, warm-ups, and now you just want to get out of that dressing room and sample that atmosphere and the noise that hits you as you walk out of the tunnel. And then hopefully any nerves that are there at present, and I'm sure they are, will gradually dispel.
Yes, and the opposite manager having a peer out the door there. He, of course, Glenn Hoddle, the player manager, first to be in this position in a cup final. Kenny Dalglish, 1986, led Liverpool to the double, of course, as a player manager. But here come Chelsea. We'll talk more later about the number of foreign players that Desmond Lynam mentioned. I make it 14 out of the 22 who start are non-English. But look at that reception for an Englishman who played for his country 90 times and who has been here as captain of Manchester United and received the FA Cup, Brian Robson, on 3 occasions. But today the modern team out of their dressing room all such well-known names, and Paul Ince superstitiously never puts on his shirt until he's just about ready to face the crowd. Eric Cantona, what has he got in store for us today? Team's got in store for us today. It's the perfect mix for a cup final on paper. South versus North, two popular clubs with class players. And they get the finest of receptions. These pictures, as ever, being watched all over the world. And we're pleased to be joined on a day like this by so many football fans from so many other countries who enjoy their cup final courtesy of the BBC pictures. 62 countries today watching these scenes. The Duchess being brought forward by Sir Bert Millership on the right, chairman of the FA, and Graham Kelly, the chief executive, behind, and an umbrella is suitably produced for Her Royal Highness and much needed as we stand for the national anthem. Strict alphabetical order, it's Chelsea first as the teams are presented to Her Royal Highness. The Duchess of Kent, who's been such a supporter of the cup final in recent years. She's been almost a regular, in fact, and Dennis Wise, the Chelsea captain, taking her down the line. No need to worry about the Johnsons and the Kjellbergs meeting our royal family. They speak perfect English. 2 words for little Mark Steen and Gavin Peacock. Chelsea's joint scoring partnership, top scorers, John Spencer. They are small, as Desmond said, these Chelsea forwards, aren't they? So across to meet the team attempting the double, Steve Bruce, whose side hope to make Manchester United history today. Were there a few words for you, Trevor, at this time when you played in the cup final?
Well, I think it passes so quickly, that little spell, that you know, I think also the guest of honour doesn't like to linger too long, because you can see the footballers all trying to do their exercise, and then courteously that they stop as she comes along.
She had a few words for Ryan Giggs, I saw.
Well, it's an occasion that Manchester United now are beginning to get used to, and I'm sure are going to get used to again. But you know, there's no greater occasion than a cup final, and as an individual, as a player, as much as you want the team to well, more than anything, you want yourself to have a decent game.
Eric Cantona, let me tell you, can speak a little bit of English when he wants to, and I'm sure he found it there when Her Royal Highness stopped for a few words with him. Referee David Ellery, the Harrow schoolmaster, and his linesman today, Paul Regier of Tipton and Graham Barber of Guildford. They were the last to be introduced, along with the reserve official Gerald Ashby of Worcester. And I understand that outside the ground there are people who still can't get in. I presume they're ticket holders who just have come a bit late. But that's going to be close to kick-off now. Now, let's just take a final check on the teams, starting with Chelsea. And for Glenn Hoddle, it was his decision to leave himself out and make himself substitute. The team there including a number of players who are not English. Steen, who's just come back from injury, born in South Africa. Karin, the goalkeeper from the Soviet Union, as was Russian. Kjellberg is a Dane, Jonsson is a Norwegian. There are 3 Scots in the side, but it's the team that was expected, the team that started last week, and Glenn Hoddle preferring to keep himself in reserve. Now, what about the formation that Jimmy and Alan were discussing earlier, Trevor?
Well, I think the 2 central defenders, Jonsson and Kjellberg, are going to have their hands full with Mark Hughes, who I thought had an outstanding last few weeks to the end of the season, and is such a focal point to United's attacks. Also, number 18 there, the anchorman in midfield, Eddie Newton, who will flip between picking up Cantona as he comes deep, and then having to keep an eye also on Roy Keane's forward runs. And then, of course, the flexibility of that small attacking 5 who do interchange on occasion so dangerously.
Well, let's turn to Manchester United. They have 7 names on the sheet who bring a different nationality to this traditionally English occasion. The Dane Schmeichel in goal, past fit. Then the Ukrainian Kanchelskis, who survived a late injury scare that was kept very quiet. There are 2 Irishmen, Irwin and Keane, 2 Welshmen, Hughes and Giggs. And of course, there's the first Frenchman to play in the FA Cup final, number 7, Eric Cantona. And I would imagine that formation is pretty well established too.
Well, it's a typical solid back 4, isn't it, that they've had all season. A lot of people saying whether the small nippy Chelsea forwards might cause them a problem. I think they'd like to squeeze up that back 4, and perhaps they've got to be wary of people running from deep like Peacock and trying to play the offside and not getting the decision. Kanchelskis and Giggs, I think, will find it difficult with Sinclair and Clark, both 2 very quick fullbacks. So I'll be interested to see if they can have the influence that many people think they might. And then, of course, Hughes and Cantona, sometimes so irresistible. We wonder what mood the pair will be in today.
So the scene is set as we await the meeting of the captains. The Royal Box now filling up rapidly. And the Chelsea chairman, something of a character to say the least, Ken Bates. And I believe in his left ear he's wearing an earring, which was a little bet he had with fellow director Matthew Harding in the 3rd round. Matthew Harding, who's put £5 million into Chelsea to build a new stand, used to stand on the shed and wear an earring. And there it is. He challenged the chairman to wear it on Cup final day, and you just caught sight of it there. Ken Bates, what a character. Meantime, down on the pitch, there aren't too many players wearing earrings, I don't think. Kjellberg with his contact lenses is about the nearest we can get. The 2 captains, Dennis Wise on the left of Chelsea, Steve Bruce on the right of Manchester United. Referee Ellery overseeing proceedings. Extreme left is Paul Regier. The linesman will be on the Royal Box side. Graham Barber, the other linesman. And the reserve official Gerald Ashby as they observe the toss of the coin. And we're nearly set to go. Now, can Mark Hughes continue his amazing Wembley record this season? Scored here in the Charity Shield, scored in the Coca-Cola final, scored here in the FA Cup semi-final. Can he make it 4 today with the assistance of Eric Cantona? And as Desmond Lynham pointed out, Chelsea have never faced Cantona and Hughes this season in the same game. As for Chelsea, well, they've got some Tom Thumb figures in their attack, haven't they? Steen and Spencer, 5'6" each. Peacock, 5'8", and Little Wise as well. So we'll see just what that mix produces as the 1994 FA Cup final, the 113th in the history of this famous competition, is about to get underway with the rain still drifting down slowly at Wembley. Weather's really changed since this morning. The pitch could be a bit slippy on top, and it's Chelsea in blue, Manchester United in red, Steve Clarke on the ball. Steen, Irwin for Manchester United. Any quick early thoughts, Trevor?
Well, it was going to be interesting to see how Manchester United solved the problem of Peacock. I wonder whether Paul Ince might do a job, but they're leaving Keane and Ince there playing just two central midfielders, and I think Pallister and Bruce are going to just have to sort out Peacock as he makes those late runs.
We'll keep an eye on it. Along with 80,000 in the stadium and millions watching here and worldwide. This is Ince. Just stretching a bit there, Cantona. Now Sinclair for Chelsea, testing Parker. Thoughtful player manager. Peter Shreves to the right of the picture there, the Chelsea coach. Been to Wembley 11 times and lost only once. Clarke. This is Sinclair getting forward early on, the left back. It's a good run too, and he had Peacock outside him, and Sinclair's still there. Oh, and they dived in front of him to block it. Ince for one was back there. This is Giggs for Manchester United. Just look at the pace. Oh, Erland Johnson was the player in the way, and David Ellery's gone straight to his pocket. This is going to be a booking for Erland Johnson on Ryan Giggs.
Well, that was the classic situation, wasn't it? Chelsea very unlucky at one end, because I thought if actually Sinclair hadn't stopped it, Spencer would have had a clear chance. But then the counter-attack, Manchester United so good, and that is a bad challenge. David Ellery immediately imposing the control, and a booking and a yellow card. Not the ideal start for a defender, because that is going to make it a difficult 88 minutes for Johnson on a slippery surface like this.
Absolutely, it was an exciting 60 seconds, because as you say, the joker in the pack was Sinclair at the other end in the Chelsea front line all of a sudden. Kanchelskis for Manchester United. Cantona, the player nearest this. Burley was with him. Keane drives it. Well, I hope the start is an indication of what's to come. I don't mean the booking, I mean the pace at which the game has begun. Here's Keane. It's a throw-in to Manchester United, this side of the flag. Steve Bruce now joins the Manchester United attack. This is Cantona looking for Hughes. Good ball in. Who's he got with him? Still Hughes. Straight to Burley, then Ince. Now Pallister. What would have happened if Johnson hadn't checked Giggs there, Trevor? That wasn't a goal-scoring opportunity as such, was it?
No, he was actually going down the right-hand side. There were one or two covering defenders, but it would have been particularly dangerous, and Johnson at that stage wasn't too sure. It was a clumsy challenge, wasn't it? Because you know, it was obvious that he was going to get quite seriously hurt, perhaps, and also a booking was going to have a result, because it looked quite a frightening sort of challenge when he actually did a bit of a somersault and landed heavily, Giggs, and of course players reacted, supporters jump up, and I think David Ellery thought, I've got to clamp down on this straight away.
Well, I think David Ellery did right, because referees have been accused in the past of not being firm enough early in cup finals. I remember the controversy in '91 over Gascoigne and Roger Milford in that game, and David Ellery went straight to his pocket there. This is Pallister. Johnson this time gets his head to it. This is Ince. Hughes got Kanchelskis wide. Ince is in the penalty area with his arm up. It's Sinclair who robs Kanchelskis. Nice touch by Cantona. Giggs. Oh. Well, it's been a lively first 5 minutes, hasn't it?
Yeah, what I've been a bit surprised at is how defenders have been quite happy to surge forward and make the extra attackers. Initially, you think sometimes it's going to be a bit of a cagey start, but we had Sinclair early on, didn't we, in that first minute, and Bruce and Pallister had a shot, and the fullbacks are pushing forward for United, and it seems that both managers have said, well, let's enjoy ourselves.
Yeah, I've got a theory about that, Trevor. I think because both teams have already qualified for Europe, you know, it's taken a lot of the tension and heat out of this cup final. Often teams come here with European football as the prize if they win, and not if they lose. This doesn't apply today because, as our viewers will know, both these clubs are already guaranteed European football next season. Pallister and Wise. The reason for that being that Manchester United are already in the Champions League, and therefore Chelsea will go into the European Cup Winners' Cup, win or lose today. Now they've got a free kick, Chelsea. Burley. Irwin. Hughes. Marked by Kjellberg. Bruce.
This is a bit more of the pattern one would have anticipated. Chelsea dropping back to the halfway line and saying, Manchester United, come on to us.
That's what Pallister did. That's a foul by Keane on Peacock. Just a word this time. Forward by Steve Clarke, who's just been recalled to the Scotland squad. Indeed, his fellow defender Johnson has just been called up by Norway after 3.5 years. So Chelsea's players are getting recognition internationally, just as Manchester United are used to it. Here's Giggs, the Welshman. Cantona through the middle. That was Johnson. Cantona is away by Wise.